All right, welcome back, everyone. It is 7 a.m. for After Sunrise, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. So we just, on Channel 17, just got done revealing our remarkable woman. And I have to tell you, I mean, Kevin and I were off screen, and we were both looking at each other and like going, whew! Like, it was just an unbelievable story of Des Perkins.
Yeah, on so many levels. I mean, I told Maddie this off screen. Out of my 20 years here at Channel 17, I would have to say that was probably the best segment, best story, best storytelling, and most emotional thing I've ever seen on this TV station. So incredible job, and it was so great to see them bond and connect again, and it's just an incredible story as well.
I mean, that's the thing is Des is such an incredible, remarkable woman to have overcome the things she's overcome. And tomorrow morning on Sunrise, we're going to share her story in her own words, because we've kind of told you about it, but to hear it from her is completely different. And to hear what she went through from the time she was a child, a little child, and to have Des was just talking. I'll just share what she was saying here in the hallway, and she said she didn't believe in God growing up because she thought God's supposed to protect his children, and no one's protecting me. No one protected her. But she said when she grew up and she got to where she is now, she realized that she was being protected because statistics say she should be dead or in jail. And she is neither of those things. She is out there working with the department, with the police department and with Homeland Security, talking to human trafficking victims who are on the streets now. They're being trafficked, and she is helping to get them off the streets. She has a nonprofit foundation. She's helping to pass bills to strengthen penalties for human trafficking perpetrators. And she is also a high school counselor. I love that. She is a high school counselor with pantries to give food to her students, hygiene products, anything that they need. She wants to be able to give it to them. She's also raising her grandsons right now. She didn't share that. She raised her children, and now she's raising 2 of her grandsons. Wow. She's caring for them for at least the time being. But yeah, so she is absolutely incredible, and I would love for everyone to hear her story tomorrow on Sunrise. It's going to air during the 6 a.m. And it is very graphic, but again, we think it's very important to share, and Des does as well, and that's why she gives seminars and she talks about it. She writes about it in her book, Warrior, because if we don't know what's happening, like you said, Kev, we can't stop it. And she has the inside knowledge of how it happens, why it happens, so she can tell us, why are these women out there? How do they get there?
What signs to look for?
Yeah, what to look for and how to help.
I think one of the things that, you know, as I've seen you, as we've talked about this story, you know, for several weeks, is her story is very graphic. It's hard to watch. It's very difficult to watch, but it is a good reminder that her story is not unique. In the sense that, like you said, it is happening right now as we speak. And like you had mentioned,
we can't sweep these things under the rug.
No, like it's good to bring these to light so we have a better understanding on. And I think what it's evident that Des is doing is she's trying to break down the stereotypes. There's so many stereotypes that exist regarding human trafficking, and it's hard for us to. It's like, you know, if you haven't been in those shoes, if you don't know, you know, other factors can influence how we see this problem, right? And so, yeah, I mean, her story I think is so important. But you know, we're talking about this. This is a remarkable woman, you know, that we've talked about. And you surprised her a couple of weeks ago, right? Yeah,
we got to surprise her at Ridgeview High School where she works. She shared this morning she thought she was in trouble when she was called into apparently the conflict mediation room is where we held this surprise, unbeknownst to us. But yeah, it was a really cool surprise. Her colleagues, some of her students joined us. Take a look.
It's still a surprise to Des Perkins when people stand up and cheer for her.
I think she deserves it, you feel me, because she's been doing a lot for us. Me personally, she do a lot for me. She always been there for me.
She is just such an incredible person. She has an incredible story of resilience from surviving human trafficking to turn that story around and helping so many people in the community, especially our youth that are at risk.
There was a time when Des was kicked out of high school. Now she works in one. When she was a teenager, she was tormented by extreme poverty, trafficked by her mother, and molested by people who were supposed to protect her. And she learned to cope by drinking, stealing, and fighting. But today, her counseling office is a safe space at Ridgeview High School.
I take being a counselor, I take being a teacher, I take all of that very, very seriously. It wasn't until high school, I hope I don't cry, it wasn't until high school that someone actually showed me that they cared. So, and it was Rochelle Reeder. So yeah, that's why I do what I do. She was the first person that ever bought me anything. She was the first person that told me that I mattered. She was the first person that would come to my house and knock on the door and check on me when I was going through everything. So it means a lot, and that's what I try to give them.
She always just helped me with advice, regarding school or personal life, issues or whatever. And it's like a safe space for me. Like, I know I can come in her office or council office and just talk to her. And like, she can always give me advice, on just like how to do better and like be better,
I've been in law enforcement 19 years, and unfortunately the majority of those stories are very tragic stories, and most of these girls don't make it. So her story is definitely one in a million. So the fact that she not only survived that, but she turned out to be this incredible woman. I could not think of anyone else to nominate for this award.
You've been chosen as the KGET Remarkable Woman for 2025.
A heartfelt surprise for a remarkable woman.
I look at it as I'm just doing what wasn't done for me. So I don't honestly see myself as remarkable. I just see myself as I love the students, I want them to be okay, and that's all that matters.
Incredible.
So tomorrow morning on Sunrise, Des will share her story. And if you weren't watching 17 News at Sunrise this morning, you definitely need to go back and watch the interview segment with Des after, because we pulled off a really cool surprise.
Have tissues, because I was getting text messages, Alex,
Yes.
everybody was, that they were bawling because it was that special.
And I think, obviously her story is so incredible. But again, like you said, Rochelle Reeder. Rochelle Reeder. And just hearing how, the impact that she had. And I think it's a good reminder. I mean, again, both of those women are truly remarkable, but it's a good reminder too about how, like, we can all make a difference in someone's life. Like, if you just like do a few things, just to go out of your way just a little bit,
Right.
Mm-hmm. you can literally change people's lives.
Yes.
And if you're changing one person's life, talk about how that's like the ultimate accomplishment, right? Is if you're able to, go throughout your life and say, and have someone say, like, you made a difference in my life. I can't think of a greater accomplishment than that.
Yeah, and I think there's two people in the world, how I see it. There's two people that do things because they like recognition, and then there's the other person that does things out of the deep kindness of their heart and are so humble. And Rochelle is that person. Like, watching today, so humble. It wasn't about her. It's just, you could tell that's who she is in the core of her being.
Yeah, she was in education for 40 years, and she said she keeps up with a lot of her students. She's still...
Yeah.
And I just love that. But she didn't just do her job, right? She didn't just like,
Above and beyond.
She wasn't just a great counselor in her office. She went out of her way to go check on Des at Des's home.
Right.
She went to her house to check up on her. And Des writes about her in her book and says, like, she came, my mom wasn't home, so I didn't answer the door, but I saw that she was there. I knew she was checking on me. But yeah, Des has a book, it's called Warrior. She wrote it during 2020, and she kind of wrote it as kind of a form of trauma therapy to deal with everything that she'd been through. It's also very graphic and hard to read, I will warn you, but I read it in like a day because you can't believe that these things could happen to a child, and just the resilience, like that resilience is absolutely incredible to be able to go through everything she went through. And another thing about affecting a person's life is it's a seed that's planted, and you don't know necessarily if or when that
Yeah,
seed is going
true.
to take root and then grow. It was decades after she met Russell Reeder and Russell Reeder made an impact on her life in high school. It was decades before Odessa really was able to flip the script on everything that she'd been through and decide to go back to college and get the master's in oh gosh, it was like criminals. What's that word? But anyway,
That's right.
she got 2 masters, one in business,
Wow.
one in like criminal psychology. She got a teaching credential. She got her counseling certificate. So she got all of these things, but it was decades later.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, we plant these seeds and you don't necessarily know, and you may not even ever see, but you can still plant that seed.
And I was
hope.
one
Right.
of those people, when you talk about human trafficking and stuff, and you see the red kettles out, in my earlier years here, I would see them on the street corner. What is that? What are these kettles?
Red bucket
human
day.
trafficking.
Uh-huh.
And in a way, and I'm going to be honest, I thought it was like a gimmick. I thought it was like not real. I was like, human trafficking? What kind of organ? You know what I mean? And then I started to really learn about it. I'm like, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
This is incredible what they're doing to help people that are in these situations. So now I have a whole different, if you're new to Kern County or you don't understand what those red kettles are that we're going to be seeing on Friday, man, it's an amazing organization that really brings light to what really is still happening today that I never had a clue about.
Well, and again, I think when we see what Des is doing, I mean, she is I mean, I cannot imagine being the type of person to say, like, I'm going to talk about my own trauma. I'm going to put the most vulnerable part of my story out there for everyone to see.
Right.
I mean, think about the most vulnerable part of like our own lives, and think about how difficult it would be to just like even discuss it in a small circle. And she is, I mean, just putting it all out there, and I just, it is unbelievable to see what she is doing. And you're talking a moment ago about like that seed. We don't know. She doesn't know the seeds that she has planted herself. And talk about like a chain reaction and so forth. As she's talking, as she's working with Homeland Security and BPD, talking to these survivors of human trafficking, the victims of human trafficking.
There could be somebody watching at home, watching this story, and it could make a huge difference in whether they talk to somebody or they've harbored it for so long, and they see her story and they're like, I think it's time for me to make a stand. You know,
And
words are so powerful.
Yeah, and then just the fact that she's working with state legislators and trying to pass a bill and to be a voice for these victims and these survivors, because they don't have a loud voice. And so to be able to be that person, I mean, it's just, it really is unbelievable. Truly, it's remarkable. To me, it's the definition, the epitome of this segment, Remarkable Women.
And the thing is, she talked about like, oh yeah, I was a really troubled youth. I was like, well, of course you were. I mean, she's like, yeah, I was involved with gangs and I did this and that and all these things. It's like, who could be surprised?
Nobody guided you.
After hearing, I mean, you're going to hear tomorrow, she was molested beginning at the age of 5 years old in her home where she was supposed to be safe. And then she was trafficked from a very early age by her own mother. So she had nobody protecting her. She was the oldest of all of her siblings. So she thought, from the time she was old enough to think thoughts like this, that she had to protect her younger siblings to keep it from happening to them. She thought that she had to steal food to feed them. Like, it was on her all of her life. So she had no one protecting her. So when she says like, oh yeah, I was a troubled youth in high school and I was really messing things up, it's like, I mean, of course you were. And I mean, it's just the fact that you have completely turned everything around and are now so resilient. It's truly incredible. That is the definition of remarkable right there. She is.
Can I ask you what it was like for you to hear this story? And because I mean, obviously you've done the reporting on this on Des Perkins. You've actually read the entire book. You have heard her entire story, and you've gotten to know her over the last several months. What has it been like for you, though, to stomach this and hear all of the, I mean, to be involved in this and to really take in all of the bits and pieces of this story to decide how to put it together and put it out to the community.
I'm going to be honest, it was really difficult. It's gotten into my head, and I don't recommend that everybody read her book. I definitely say proceed with caution. I think that the story we're going to present tomorrow is not as graphic as her book, obviously. We definitely were careful about the way we told it, and I think that we told it in a very sensitive way. I still think that it comes with a warning. Like, you need to know that this is a story about a young girl who was molested and trafficked.
Now, when you say warning, is this for adults? Should parents, if they're watching, maybe say, kids, maybe go, what's your...
I would not have my children watch it. I wouldn't.
Gotcha.
And
people may, why?
It depends on the age of your kids.
People may be saying, why are you airing it if my kids can't watch it? Because it's an important thing to put out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you don't know, you can't fix. You can't understand. So that's why it's so important.
And I do think it is so important, because I think that some of the things that happened to her were unbelievable until I heard them from her. No, this really does happened to me and does happen to others. She's not alone. That she's not the only person this has ever happened to. And I think it's so easy to judge people's decisions in life and judge where they are. I mean, I have driven down Union Avenue in the middle of the night and seen women out there walking the streets. And I mean, my heart breaks for them, but also if I see them during the daytime with my kids, do I look the other way and tell my kids to look the other way? Yes. But what, seed of judgment is in me that, that is also part of that. And I just think it's important. It stops us in our judgment and goes, but wait a second, something else is wrong here. And there's a reason that everybody has gotten to where they are today.
What was the biggest takeaway for you personally after hearing her story unedited?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I just again, I think the way I look at the women who are on the streets, on Union Avenue and on the Blade, and I mean, I knew that who would choose that, right?
Right.
Who would just freely choose, that's what I want to do. There's a reason, there is something hard that has happened. But she said a lot of those women are not from Bakersfield. They're from Las Vegas or
Stanford,
or
Fresno.
Exactly, up and down the state, out of state. And they don't want to be there. A lot of them have pimps, and they don't get that money. Des never got that money. That was going to her mom's drugs. Her mom was selling her to buy drugs. And so you never know how someone got to where they are. And I hope it opens all of our eyes. I mean, we have a rampant homelessness issue here in Bakersfield, and it's easy to see the problem and not see the person, and see the person who is suffering.
Right.
And there's a reason that person is suffering, and maybe it's addiction, and maybe it's their traumatic circumstances, maybe it's mental illness. There are a lot of things that can go into that, and I just think it helps us to not look at the problem as a whole, but to look at each individual person with hopefully just a heart of compassion.
Right.
We can't solve every person's circumstances, but we can. And Des said, we can't solve human trafficking as a whole, but we can start here in our community. We can start with one person, one talk at a time. And
Rossell is the example.
And Rossell, is the example of one person. She impacted somebody in her job as a high school counselor. But we can just open one person's eyes, out there to maybe one person will see someone who's being trafficked, or stop someone from being trafficked. Because yesterday, when I talked to Odessa, she said that a lot of girls now are learning to walk the Blade, that's Union Avenue, on TikTok. There are videos on how to do it, all that stuff. It is on TikTok, parents. Wow. I just really want you to know that.
Yeah.
You need to know what is happening on your kid's phone. People on apps that you would never suspect, on games that you would never suspect, can groom your kids and make them not trust you, but trust them instead, and develop a relationship that is very unhealthy and dangerous, and that is where that seed that could grow into human trafficking could happen.
Yeah, and obviously you can't look at it and be just so scared and fearful that this is going to happen to every kid. But but what you talked about is just you need to have those conversations. They're hard conversations to have with your children, right? I mean, they're very difficult conversations. but you can't ignore it. It's kind of like with the story. The whole reason why we're airing this story tomorrow is because it is obviously very difficult. But we don't want to ignore it. We don't want to just push it to the side because it's important to have those conversations. That also leads us into talking about the perfect timing here. Red Bucket Day. You already mentioned it on Friday. These two stories not related. It just kind of happened that it was we were airing these stories this week, and then we've got Red Bucket Day on Friday, and so we're taking this opportunity to really expose the issue.
And April is Sexual Abuse Awareness Month as well. And I do think I'm not trying to scare parents, but I do think I've heard parents say, I shouldn't go through their phone. That's invasion of privacy. I think, yes, you should go through their phone. And if they're going to have access to the world, the entire world, you may think your child is being protected in your home, but they're not when you're giving them unfettered access to the internet on their phone.
How much access do you give your kids on the streets of your neighborhood?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I give them much more access on the streets of my neighborhood to go play at the park and play with their friends.
Sure.
We have overprotected kids in the real world and underprotected them online.
Yeah. So again, it's just like, it's a good reminder to have those conversations with your kids. But then again, Red Bucket Day.
On Friday.
On Friday.
Yeah, you can stop by our studio. We have breakfast burritos in the morning between 7 and 9 for $8. Or you can just stop by any time during the day and make a donation. Here at Compassion Corner, Sully's, Chevron over on coffee, and then Hodell's off of Olive and Knudsen.
And all that money raised goes to bringing more and more and more awareness of human trafficking.
And it stays here in Kern County. The Kern Coalition Against Human Trafficking, I think it's called.
All right, let's shift gears just a little bit this morning. So earlier this month, there was a thief that apparently stole one of the peacocks out at Hart Park. Did you hear about this?
No. How do they even know that there's so many of them?
Yeah. So
I know, right?
How'd you know?
I think it was caught on camera.
It was. I think so. Yeah. So, but this whole conversation, it's all started that people are wondering oh yeah, I've noticed that there are peacocks out there, but how do they even get there?
I love this history.
They've been there since a zoo.
Yes.
Yes. So it's all tied together. Yeah, so 17's Robert Price has a look at, obviously the theft that happened, the reward that's being offered, but also how these birds got to Hart Park.
One of Bakersfield's most popular attractions is Calm, the California Living Museum, a zoo and wildlife preserve that's been around since the 1980s. But Calm is not Bakersfield's original zoo. That would be Hart Park. You say you didn't know Hart Park was once a zoo?
Fact is, in the pre-television era of family entertainment, Hart Park, a short distance west of Calm, was a number of things, including a zoo. Starting in 1929, the county started collecting wild animals of all description, from alligators to bison to hippos. The first resident, a pure white doe named John Doe, who turned out to be a Jane. According to local historian Gilbert Gia, there were badgers, deer, elk, baboons, and 2 spider monkeys, one named King, who had a sweet disposition, and one named Jim, who didn't. The zoo had ringneck pheasants, 2 owls, Punch and Judy, a black gander, some ostriches, and the only zoo tenants that remain today, peacocks and peahens, peafowl collectively. They still run free, semi-autonomously.
They roost in these trees right here at night. This is their favorite roost. Sundown, they come in, and they'll go up to the top of those trees, and you can see that looks like maybe 60 feet, I don't know.
The peacocks were in the news this month when an unidentified man snuck up behind one of the exotically feathered birds, snatched him, and hauled him away flailing. Traumatized witnesses ran over to the Kern River Parkway Nature Center, a renovated adobe structure once known as the Peacock House, and reported the incident.
They just didn't know what to do, and they were beside themselves. They said the peacock was calling, they actually say a sound like "help me," but this peacock was just crying for help. So it was traumatizing.
The Kern County Sheriff's Department took a report, but without a description of the suspect or much of anything else, they have little to go on.
What do they want to do with the peacock? What are we using the peacocks for? Why would he steal a peacock? I just don't know, why not a pigeon?
They're not known to be especially tasty. They can sell for upwards of $250 and might look good in your garden, but their mating calls can be pretty annoying. Another question, is it even a crime to steal a peacock? They're not an endangered species. Does the county own them? They are the descendants of some of the county zoo's original tenants, so maybe. Or is this peacock abduction like trapping a pigeon? Let the debate commence.
When I come here in the morning, I hear them, they call and they walk around just like we're hearing now, and it just stills my soul. I just feel so peaceful.
2 years ago, the Peacock House, which was also once the park ranger's residence, became the nature center, staffed by volunteers and peacocks, some who spend most of their time behind a chain-link fence, some who prance around the yard and run up to the edge of the road to scold motorists. It's a relaxing place to visit and learn about the Kern River. Relaxing, that is, except for the possibility of peacock abduction. In Bakersfield, Robert Price, 17 News.
All right, if you're watching it right now, just return the peacock.
Also, if you
just return it.
If you hear a peacock sound in your neighborhood,
Yeah,
You'll know
exactly. Although we have one that lives in our neighborhood in Tehachapi, and I know that one's been there a long time.
So don't, yeah, but yeah.
Not that
if you
one.
got a peacock in your neighbor's backyard, it's maybe coming from
Maybe the Hart Park
peacock.
They-
so
I-
just return
they
it.
are. I love that. I'm not going to even do it but the sound that they make.
Yeah, it's a.
And I love how she's like, it's just so peaceful, and I'm like, I would not call that a peaceful
Hey, each
sound.
to their own. Each to their own.
Looking at them
They're
is very
so
peaceful.
gorgeous.
They're gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
When they're like the
Yeah.
males, when they're fully, when the feathers are all out, they are majestic.
So
you guys,
maybe-
you know what? I saw a peacock just the other day.
Where?
Right outside the studio.
Yeah, we've got our own painted peacock.
Oh, yeah.
Spirit.
Spirit, the peacock painted on our wall out
So if
here.
you're watching
Just
this
a
and you
mural.
took that peacock, you just find it back in your heart to just drop it off
Come on.
again.
I mean, they must just want it as a pet, right? Like that's the only
Or
thing
their
I can
feathers.
think.
yes.
Make a quill.
Oh,
I mean, you can buy those really cheap than
Yeah, you
having
can.
instead of having to
anyway.
steal them from a peacock.
Sad, but great story.
I remember.
I love the history.
Yeah.
When I was younger, one of the things. So my grandparents, they lived on Mount Vernon Avenue, just like 3 homes from Bakersfield College, and we would, like, if I would spend the night at their house sometimes as a kid, we would go and get a Smith's Bakery donut, and then we would go to Hart Park, and my grandpa and I would walk around, and we would try to find peacocks.
So cute.
And so
Did
that
you have
was
to
like,
look very hard? Or?
not really.
Yeah.
I mean, well, honestly, it depended. I mean, it was all like dependent on like the weather and,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But sometimes they were
How
all
fun.
right there. Other times you'd have to like walk and find them. But
That's so cute.
There's
Yeah.
an abundance of peacocks, squirrels.
and cats out there.
And
actually.
cats.
Yeah, the cats are not
That's
supposed
kind
to
of a
be
problem.
there. Yeah, that's a.
And a few bald eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, right there at Lake Ming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Man, and that is so cool. Like, doesn't it make you like wish there was still all of that stuff at the I mean, not a hippo at, there shouldn't be a
The
hippo at
monkeys
Hart
and stuff
Park.
like that.
But it is just it takes me back. Like, I wish I could have seen it back in the
I
day
know.
because it wasn't just a zoo. There was a lot of other stuff. Like,
I
it was
think
there was snack bars. I remember
Yeah.
my dad talking about snack bars. You could rent like canoes and kayaks
Yeah, you
for
used
the
to be able to
lake
swim out there
and
at
swim and
Lake Mead.
it was a happening spot apparently
mean-
at Hart Park too.
I mean, obviously we have Calm, which is right there, just down the street. I mean, I know it's very different.
Very different thing.
Very
yes.
different. I mean, there are no hippos at Calm.
Wasn't there like a family
it called?
pool out at Hart Park?
Maybe, yeah. I think there might have
was
been.
a huge,
There's a whole lot of
humongous
cool
pool.
stuff.
Yeah, I
like
know.
really cool stuff.
It's the good old days.
Remember they've
I
talked
call it.
about putting water slides there
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
happened.
come on.
Like
We've
the
heard
others.
the rumor of water slides in the water park
Do
in
we
Bakersfield
not
for
have?
years.
I mean, we have McMurtry Aquatic Center.
And I'm off on my dates,
Which
but
is fine.
we had water slides in the 50s, and we had a big pool out
We
there.
had them in the
60s.
90s.
90s?
Yeah.
In the 90s, over on White Lane. I remember going there.
And now
If Paso Robles has a water park,
How
and-
does Bakersfield?
How do we not have a water park?
I know.
I mean, again, that we have water
McMurtry.
slides at McMurtry.
Yeah.
And,
But it's only 2 water slides.
For a population of over
And
almost a
exactly,
million.
those lines get quite long. Let me tell you, in the summer,
Yeah,
I've been
so,
there.
Water park.
Yes, we're on board.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for After Sunrise. Again, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. on 17 News at Sunrise, and then we'll be back here at 7 o'clock.
Have a great rainy day.